Hi everybody, Creative Katie, Karen Burchill here. Welcome to my channel. Today an art journal tutorial, and this one's a little bit different because I'm going to share lessons learned when a page just doesn't go smoothly. This one really fought me from beginning to end. First off, I was going to do the Pantone Color of the Year. You'll get a sneak peek of the color, but this is not going to be that project. Now I'm breaking the page here by stamping with black acrylic paint onto this gessoed art journal page. I'm using some of my DIY cube stamps that I've made in a recent video, and I will put a link to that video. So while you're not going to see a lot of this in the final page, I left this in because this is a good way of breaking a page. When you don't know what to do, add some pattern. Put something down. Sometimes that gives you the next step, and just the process of starting gets you moving. An object in motion stays in motion. It's also a great way to test out your stamps, new stamps or new stencils, because you know that at this level or at this layer, it's not going to be up front because you're going to add color on top of this. You may add some collage papers, you may add modeling paste, all those things that make mixed media so wonderful. So some of this is going to get knocked back absolutely. Once that's dry, I decide I'm going to use this new stencil. To me, it's called Labyrinth, and I'm going to use TCW modeling paste. I'm using a key card to apply it. Now, whenever you have a page, you want pattern, stamps and stencils, texture, modeling paste, collage papers, and color. Those are three of the main components. So if you're not sure what you need to add, so is there enough pattern? Is there some texture? Now texture, you can get visual texture. Things could appear closer or further back, or physical with modeling paste and things that you're gluing on top of. Now with the texture paste here, modeling paste, sometimes you're going to bring that out to the foreground, and sometimes it's just going to be very subtle and in the background, and you as the artist get to decide which one. Now I just showed you the Pantone Color of the Year. That's very Perry. It's a periwinkle blue. And I'm mixing paints to get that color. I've got turquoise and dioxazine purple, and I'm mixing this block and blend technique with the makeup sponge right on the page. I want to get some variation. I'm adding some white gesso to make it a little lighter, a little darker. I want to build variation because I think one of the things that I like to have on a page is some variation, some differences. You want some contrast. Now you can see already all that black stamping that we did has been pushed back by these colors. These colors are fairly dark and they are either semi-opaque or opaque, which means they are going to cover what's behind them. Now I love this periwinkle purple color. I love every color that's here. This is so my thing. But I'm lacking contrast. So I grabbed the white gesso and this rainbow montage stencil, and I'm adding this. I want to make the background a little bit more interesting. Now, every time you add a layer, you are pushing whatever's behind it back. So the black stamping is even further back now. I thought, oh, I put this modeling paste on. I want to bring it out a little bit. So maybe I'm just rubbing the white gesso on top there. That came out really well. And I'm liking that stencil. I'm not sure that my application and use of it on this page works. So, my one of my favorite saying is sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And there's lots of learning that I did on this page. Things that I like, things that I think don't go well. And because I wasn't feeling the texture, I just decided to add more stenciling with this Rainbow Montage stencil. Now I love this stencil. It adds a lot of movement to the page, but I still wasn't getting a clear picture of what comes next. And usually, once I start creating and I go through the motions, especially when I've got creative block going on, I haven't been in the studio for a few days, with the Christmas holidays, it just feels awkward and it's a bit more of a struggle. And one of the things that I do when that happens, don't panic, just fake it till you make it. Keep going. Try something else. It's only paper and paint. Wanted to build more contrast. I thought maybe splattering black was going to give it to me. So I grabbed this ethereal stencil, these little stars. I love this motif. I like what it's adding to this page. Now, part of the problem when I sat down to do this, I was kind of forcing the creative process. I also had lots of ideas. I want to do the Pantone color and I want to do some modeling paste and I want to do this and I want to do that. And sometimes that just bogs you down. So sometimes you need to do less, which is my whole word of the year is simplify. So there is the background. And while there are parts of it that I like, it is not inspiring the next step. I'm flipping through focal images that I have, possibilities, and nothing is coming to mind. So while I said sometimes you can push it and fake it till you make it, keep going through the process, and maybe that will inspire you and get you going. Sometimes you do what I did now. You just put it away, come back another day. So this is the next day, and I decided I'm just going to add more color. So I grabbed quinacridone magenta and I'm adding that in 3 sections. This is adding a lot of interest to the page, energy to the page that was somewhat lacking before. Thinking, okay, I'm liking the color, so I'm going to do some stamping with this DIY stamp and with the quinacridone magenta, just adding more pattern. And even though this page is not going smoothly, it sure beats a day of doing house cleaning. There's a lot more energy in this page right now, even though it's incomplete, than the one that where the background was finished. Then I mixed the paint and got that purpley periwinkle color, and I'm going right over the whole page. That swirl is just too predominant in my head. It's not, I don't know what to do. So I'm redoing it. This has now become very dark, but there's a lot more interest in here. I grab another stencil and I'm stenciling with that turquoise paint. And of course I did a messy job of stenciling, so I grab a baby wipe and wipe it back. And I can do that because everything right now is acrylic paint and it's permanent. It's like, okay, let's be a little more careful. And when you're using a stencil, you remember you do not have to use the entirety of the stencil. You can use just a small section. And for me, I'm just doing that center of that one. I'll put the name of all the stencils that I use in this page, whether it shows up at the end or not. But I'm really liking how this is looking. This is adding, we're getting that visual texture happening now. So this page is a little more alive than what it was when I left it at night, the night before. Wanted to make this a little more opaque, so I'm lining up the stencil and just adding another layer. And really, for the first time in this art journal page process, I'm very happy with what I'm seeing. You can see that the texture's there. You can see now we've got the pattern. I'm adding some more of that quinacridone magenta with this fence grid stencil. I want this very, very light. Very subtle patterning. Here I got a little too much on the makeup sponge and you can see it made a mess. Take the time, go slow. I want to add something a little smaller scale in a stencil or a stamp. So I'm flipping through. I've got the slimline stencils right there. This is punch card. And I'm using white gesso here. You can use white acrylic paint. I just always have the gessos right out there, so I tend to go with it. If I wanted it more opaque, I'd use the white acrylic paint. This again, as soon as I do this, it's adding energy somehow to the page and light. You're getting that contrast. Don't be afraid to try something. Don't be afraid to paint over a page that isn't working. There's a lot of interest now in this background. There's texture from the modeling paste, even though I haven't really done anything to bring out that texture. You can see that mandala stenciling. I'm unsure if I'm done or not, so I'm just edging the page here. I was very tempted to just throw this page in the garbage, delete the video file, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to talk about this process. This happens to all of us. I grabbed my DIY cube stamp, and this is actually the stamp that I wanted to use right at the beginning. I think that's where it derailed because I ended up using the wrong one. I love the organic feel of this stamp. To me, this looks like a magnolia blossom, just the way I cut this textured fun foam. I'm stamping some of them off the page. I'm turning the stamp. And I absolutely love this background. So in the end, it was worth redoing the page. I'm happier with this one than the one that I had before. And I can duplicate this following the steps if I wanted to. Then flipping through my focal images, thought, you know what, I haven't done a face in a long time. Now, the summer of 2021, I spent several times drawing faces, and this is one of the ones that I drew. And what, instead of drawing it again, what I have is I have the master and I photocopy it whatever size I want, and then I can use it on the different pages and I can alter what I do with it or the backgrounds, but I don't have to redraw it. So I cut it out and I'm gluing it down. Now I just printed this on copy paper. You could print it on tissue paper. If you glue that down, then you're going to see whatever is in the background behind it. But I chose to take the easy way here. Now, when I drew this, I did all the shading on the page, all the line work, and that's on the photocopy here. So when I am applying the color for the flesh tone and the hair, that shading that I've done, all the line work is still going to come through and make my job easier at this stage. Now I'll put a link to some of the other faces videos where I actually do a lot more in developing the face and adding to the face. I admit by the time I got to this, after doing the background twice and having the battle with it, I really wanted to fast forward to get to the end of this page. Here I'm shading with the brown. And I'm just copying where the dark shading was in my original drawing. I decided that I'm going to go with yellow hair, and this is yellow oxide. And you can see the line work shows through. Now I could have cut off the hair here and just painted the hair onto the background. And I've done that. But again, I was going for a simpler plan on this one. I use the turquoise that's in the background for the eyes so that everything kind of works together. And I use the quinacridone magenta from the background for the lips. I grab my Stabilo All pencil and do some sketching on the lines. Now, the Stabilo All pencil is water activated, so if I'm going to add water or wet medium after this, it will reactivate. Now I'm going to do that on purpose to get some low lights in the hair, but I also have to remember when I glue that flower down not to get it reactivated and be a little bit more careful so that I don't end up turning that white magnolia into a gray magnolia. The nice part, if you get the Stabilo oil pencil in a place where you don't want it, baby wipe, you can get rid of it. So then am I going to put the magnolia there? Just adding some sketching and line work with the black Posca pen. And again, the Posca pen, until it's completely dry, you can remove it with a baby wipe very easily. And I can do that because everything underneath that is permanent. It's acrylic paint, so it's not going to move. I decided to add the flower over here. I thought of maybe making a crown with flowers. Here I'm painting them white and adding a little bit of the quinacridone magenta for a blush color. And I apologize, we're going to get back on right away. Just adding more layers of paint, and then I shade with the gray or with black and with some more of that pink. And shading with the black. So I hope you found this useful, this video showing, we all struggle at times and it doesn't always go smoothly. Just stick with it and enjoy the process. And all else fails, there's a coat of white gesso. I go to my sentiment packs and I cut out the sentiment. Everything blooms in its own time, including an art journal page. Sometimes you can do all the right elements and it still doesn't work out. And that's okay. Enjoy it. Have fun. Try new things. If they work, great. If they don't, okay, do something else. Just drawing everything, and then I'm going to grab my Posca pen and outline the sentiment. We have some close-ups of the finished page. Now go do a page. Grab a page that didn't work. Redo it. See what happens. You've got nothing to lose. Until next time, go get creative.